Mehmet Oz, the good doctor, is out with a new video in his pursuit of running the most embarrassing and hapless campaign of the cycle. Let's take a look at this. Briahna has yet to see it, so we're going to get her live reaction to this one.
Thought I'd do some grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for Crudite, right? So here's a broccoli. That's $2. Not a ton of broccoli there. Here's some asparagus. That's $4. Yep. Carrots. That's $4 more. That's $10 of vegetables there. And then we need some guacamole. That's $4 more. And she loves salsa. Yeah, there's salsa there. $6. Must be a shortage of salsa. Guys, that's $20 for Crudite, and this doesn't include the tequila. I mean, that's outrageous. And we got Joe Biden to thank for this.
And so, first of all, I was born in Pennsylvania. I can tell you, he's at a Redner's, which is kind of a very standard grocery store. He calls it Wegner's, which is clearly in his mind a mashup of Wegmans and Redner's. And he comes up with Wegner's. That's just a start. It's like every 3 seconds there's another. What? So what were the first 8 things that jumped out at you?
When I think of relatable grocery store buys and indicia of how high inflation really is, I gotta say my brain goes to milk, eggs, bread, not Crudite. I mean, look, I'm not trying to do like elite punching, like, oh my gosh, only Obama eats arugula, but it isn't a really odd choice. I think there is definitely a conversation to be had about how vegetables are expensive and have been even before this inflationary moment, and that it is much more difficult to eat cheaply and healthily at the same time. I also think there's something to be said for how it's a lot more cost effective oftentimes to buy prepackaged foods like a $10 vegetable tray with dip, as opposed to trying to assemble things yourself for precisely this reason. But it just is so off-putting and at the same time authentic. Like, I get the sense that his wife really was trying to put together Crudite, because who would come up with something like this?
Right, but she would never send him to the store to get it, because she's gonna be like, what is this fresh cold salsa that's supposed to be doing with this? Like, this is not the kind of dip I would want with asparagus. Are you crazy? And also, Dr. Oz doesn't seem to understand. He's trying to get this, like, the fresh cut, the freshly made salsa there from Renner's. You want cheaper salsa. You got to get the warm stuff
in the jar.
In the jar. Like, I'm sorry that it was $6 for this freshly made stuff for you. You don't like paying the $3 or $4 for the guacamole there. Go get an avocado and make your own guacamole. But yeah, the Crudite was not coming together whatsoever. And he finishes by saying, this is before the tequila. You can't get tequila at grocery stores in Pennsylvania, but in what way is tequila? I guess he saw, maybe he picked up the salsa and the guac, and so then he left the Crudite world and went into, he's going to go make margaritas for his wife.
Right. Look, grab the salsa, grab the guac, get some chips, get your tequila, have yourself a time. Leave the asparagus behind. Leave that sad-looking broccoli behind. Now I know. I did see on Twitter. I hadn't seen this clip, but I did see people talking about elites apparently liking to dip asparagus stalks into salsa. And now I am glad to finally understand where that discourse is coming from. It was some Dr. Oz mockery, not a genuine trend among elites. I thought it was maybe some kind of weight loss diet tip to snack on salsa and asparagus. Now I just know it's people dunking on Dr. Oz, and I'm feeling much more assured.
Yeah, and also that's a pretty good amount of carrots for $4. That was a really healthy bag of carrots. What I want to know though is this a Bloomberg situation where his staff is just cashing checks and actively hating and working against the guy? Because if you've worked on a campaign, if you are a staffer that cares about the campaign, you're like, hey, either we're not going to do this, or we're at least going to retake it with the correct name of the grocery store that you're in. Instead, they're like, all right, Doc, this works. And this is going right up into the feeds.
That's a really good question.
Do they hate him?
I think Bernie was unique insofar as there was no coaching. There was no
You can't,
asking Bernie to do. There were no takes. Bernie wasn't really himself, and I think out of that authenticity also came in the fact that we didn't really need for there to be takes. People liked who he was. They knew who he was. They've known him for a really long time. I think part of Dr. Oz's problem is he's doing this hard pivot from someone who was a TV star, and a TV star that was appealing to, yes, a certain more elite faction of the American viewer, the more middle class, upper middle class housewife. And his expertise was as a medical professional, and he wasn't aspiring to do anything other than that. And now he's trying to be something that he really isn't. And I think there's a world where Dr. Oz is just like, look, I'm a doctor. This is not my lane, but I know about, let's say, COVID stuff, or I know how to run a business, or things like that. I can't imagine Donald Trump trying to pretend that he knows anything about grocery shopping, and people, frankly, loved him for it.
Right. The same with Bernie. Like, if you he does his own grocery shopping. It reminds me of that anecdote from Ari Ramenhoff's book, where they go to the grocery store and he buys like a steak and some frozen peas and some ice cream. Comes back, he just throws the cold steak, unseasoned or anything, and then he fires up the grill, and then he throws the peas in the microwave. And it's like, but that's authentically Bernie.
Yeah.
Like, the public wouldn't see that as anything other than, oh, that's Bernie. So in some ways, that's Dr. Oz. They should just do these bits every day, like Dr. Oz trying to be a regular person. And if they're funny enough, then maybe they'll elect him just to keep getting these gags.
Yeah, Dr. Oz as Amelia Bedelia, the self-effacing Amelia Bedelia. We have actually a tweet from the United Farm Workers who trolled Dr. Oz here, having a little fun. Ever wonder where broccoli in your crudite comes from? This is how it's harvested. Using this as a moment to emphasize the labor that obviously goes behind getting all of those vegetables into the store. I want to ask you this, Ryan. A friend and colleague of mine, Nathan Robinson, got in some hot water on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, criticizing people who are, leaning too far into the making fun of this aspect of Dr. Oz's approaches, instead of talking about the substantive policy differences between Dr. Oz and Fetterman. Do you think that that's fair, that we're losing sight of what the left has to offer here substantively because we're focusing so much on the superficial?
Maybe, but if you're focusing on the superficial and you're leaning into the kind of the emotional element here, which is that Dr. Oz is a plutocrat who's out of touch, then you're still well within kind of a left-wing critique. And so if that's how John Fetterman beats a Republican by making them look like an out of touch plutocrat, although Oz is doing this very much on his own. You for a second you would think that this was a surreptitiously recorded video by the Fetterman campaign,
right.
Catching him in the act of being an out of touch plutocrat. It's actually him just doing it with his staff and uploading it to social media. So I don't necessarily think so, because I think winning mass popular support is about connecting emotionally with people and telling them a story, and then you fill in the policy behind that afterwards. And for people who are deeply curious, they can go find the policy. But in order to move people, I think you have to move them. And so, and I think if this works, then you go with it. And so as long as it's like in that frame of a kind of left populist, like look how clueless this super rich person is, and then thereby indicting the kind of the rich class, then I think that's fine for for kind of somebody like him who has like socialist politics and is trying to bring people into socialist politics. I don't know, what was your reaction to that?
I think that's right. I think that there is a line where you can tip over into trolling so hard that you lose kind of public goodwill, or you lose sight of what your actual mission is. But I don't know that we're anywhere near that. And sometimes I do think the left needs to accept a win. Just say yes to the win.
Pocket that W.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow on Rising, we have reporter Lee Harris joining us to talk about the environmental aspects of the IRA. And of course, it was great to be with you today, Ryan.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It was kind of last minute, but I think our left wing takeover here of Rising is pretty effective. We'll bring the balance back tomorrow. And also don't forget to check out the podcast, of course, if that's how you like to listen to this. You can get it there now. For all you folks on the go, although I don't know about on the go because it's like more than an hour, so you got a long way to go. This is more like people who are supposed to be working and listening to it in the background, which is, I think, a great way to pass the time on the clock.
So one of my call-in show last night told me they listened to some of my content when they were checking people out in the grocery store yesterday, and it warmed the cockles of my heart.
There you go. Perfect.
Well, we will see you tomorrow. You can, of course, find this content anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we will be back with less left-wing takeover, but all the great content that you're used to hearing from Rising. So take care.
And I will see you guys on Friday with Emily. Peace.
Bye-bye.